Hello, this is SGTS Soul from the Intergalactic Space Command. I work for Verlon. We have a message for your race. It is what you will do, and this message is which matters. Each one of you wishes to exercise his or her free will and experience happiness. These are attributes that were shown to us and to which we now have access. Your free will depends upon the knowledge you have of your own power. Your happiness depends upon the love that you give and receive. Like all conscious races, at this stage of progress, you may feel isolated on your planet. This impression makes you sure of your destiny. Yet, you are at the brink of big upheavals that only a minority is aware of. It is not our responsibility to modify your future without you choosing it. Consider this message as a worldwide referendum, and your answer as a ballot. Neither your scientist nor your religious representatives speak anonymously or unanimously about any event of unexplained celestial events that mankind has witnessed for over 1,000 years. To know the truth, one must face it without the filter of one's own beliefs, however respectable they may be. A growing number of anonymous researchers of yours are exploring new knowledge paths and are getting very close to reality. Today, your civilization is flooded with an ocean of information of which only a tiny part, the less upsetting one, is notably diffused. What in your history seemed ridiculous or improbable has often become possible, then realized, and particularly in the last 50 years. Be aware that the future will be even more surprising. You will discover the worst as well as the best. Like billions others in this galaxy, we are conscious creatures that some name extraterrestrials, even though reality is subtler. There is no fundamental difference between you and us, save for the experience of certain stages of evolution. Like in any other organized structure, hierarchy exists in our internal relationships. Ours is based upon the wisdom of several races. It is with the approval of this hierarchy that we turn to you. Like most of you, we are the quest of the Supreme Being. Therefore, we are not gods or lesser gods, but virtually your equals in the cosmic brotherhood. Physically, we are somewhat different, but for most of us, humanoid-shaped. Our existence is a reality, but the majority of you do not perceive it yet, that we are not mere observations. We are consciences, just like you. You fail to apprehend us because we remain invisible to your senses and measure instruments most of the time. We wish to fill this void at the moment of your history. We made this collective decision, but this is not enough. We need yours. Through this message, you become the decision makers. You personally. We have no human representative on Earth who could guide your decision. At certain stages of evolution, cosmic humanities discover new forms of science the apparent control of matter. Structure, dematerialization, and materialization are part of them. This is what your humanity has reached in a few laboratories, in close collaboration with other extraterrestrial creatures, at the cost of hazardous compromises that remains purposely hidden from you by some of your representatives. Apart from this aerial or spatial objects or phenomena known about your scientific community that you call UFOs, they are essentially multidimensional manufactured spaceships that apply these capacities. Many human beings have been in a visual, auditory, tactile, or physical contact with such ships, some of which are under occult powers that govern you. The scarcity of your observations is due to the outstanding advantages provided by the dematerialized state of these ships. By not witnessing them by yourself, you cannot believe in their existence. We fully understand this. The majority of these observations are made on an individual basis so as to touch the soul and not to modify any organized system. This is deliberate from the races that surround you, but for very different reasons and results. For negative multidimensional beings that play a part in the exercise of power in the shadow of human oligarchy, discretion is motivated by their will to keep the existence and seizure unknown. For us, discretion is motivated by the respect of the human free will that people can exercise to manage their own affairs so they can reach technical and spiritual maturity on their own. Humankind's entrance into the family of galactic civilization is greatly appreciated. We can appear in broad daylight and help you attain this union. I haven't done it so far, as too few of you are genuinely desired it, because of ignorance and indifference of fear, because the emergency of the situation did not justify it. Many of those who study our appearances count the lights in the sky at night without lighting the way. Often they think in terms of objects when it is all about conscious beings. You are the offspring of many traditions that throughout time have been mutually enriched by others and by each other's contributions. The same applies to the races at the surface of the earth. Your goal is to unite in the respect of these roots to accomplish a common project. The appearance of your culture seems to keep you separated because your substitute for your color is clouding your deeper being. Shape is now more important than the essence of your subtle nature, and for the powers in place, the prevalence of the shape constitutes the ramparts against any form of jeopardy. You are being called on to overcome shape, while still respecting it for its richness and beauty. Understanding the conscience of shape makes us love men in their diversity. Peace does not mean making war. It consists in becoming what you are in reality, the same fraternity. To understand this, the number of solutions within your reach are decreasing. One of them consists in contacts with another race that would reflect the image of what you are in reality. Except for rare occasions, our interventions always have very little incidence on your capacity to make collective and individual decisions about your own future. This is motivated by our knowledge of your deep psychological mechanisms, and we have reached the conclusion that freedom is built every day as a being becomes aware of himself and of his environment, getting progressively rid of constraints and inertias, whatever they may be. But despite the numerous brave and willing human consciences, these inertias are artificially maintained for the profit of a growing centralizing power. Mankind cannot control mankind because of these centralizing powers. Until recently, mankind have lived in a satisfying control of its own decisions, but it is abundantly clear that we are losing more and more control of our own fate because of these growing use of advanced technologies, which lethal consequences on an earthly stage of our human ecosystem has become irreversible. We are slowly and definitely killing our planet, but surely losing your extraterrestrial and extraordinary capacity to make our life even desirable on this planet. Your resilience will artificially decrease independently on your own will. Such technologies exist that affect your body as well as your mind. Such plans are in their way. But this can change as long as you keep this creative power in you. Even if it cohabitates with the dark intentions of your potential lords. This is the reason why we remain invisible. This individual power is doomed to vanish. Should a collective reaction of great magnitude not happen, the period to come is that of rapture and the Crusades, whichever it may be. But should you wait for the last moment to find solution, should you anticipate and undergo pain, and fight for no God and believe in the dead God, your history will have never ceased and never existed to be marked by the encounters between peoples who have had discovered one another in conditions that were often conflictual with modern beliefs. Conquests almost happen to detriment of others. Earth has now become a village where everyone knows everyone else, but still conflicts persist and threats of all kinds get worse, and the duration and intensity of your own existence is futile. Although the human being as an individual may have the potential and capacities, it cannot exercise them with dignity in groups and large numbers. This is the case for the biggest majority of you for reasons that are essentially geopolitical. There are several billions of you. The education of your children and your living conditions, as well as the conditions of numerous animals and plant life, are nevertheless under the thumb of the smallest number of your political, financial, military, and religious representatives. Your thoughts and beliefs are modeled after partisan interests to turn you into slaves, while at the same time giving you the feeling that you are in total control of your destiny, which is the essence of this reality on Earth. Earthlings feel like they're in hell, and hell is getting worse. But there is a long way between a wish and a fact when the true rules of a game are at hand and are unknown. This time, you are not the conqueror, biasing information in a military strategy for human beings to be abducted and inducted and placed with thoughts and emotions and organisms and technology that you do not belong. Via ad hoc technologies, Wi-Fi technologies, 4G LTE slow kill, soft kill, silent kill technologies, mind control technologies, wonderful opportunities of progress stand close to being just destruction of the own race. These dangers and opportunities exist now, however, you can only perceive what is being shown to you. The end of natural resources is programmed, whereas no long-term collective project has been launched. People are going to jail for collecting rainwater and getting fined. The ecosystem exhaustion mechanisms have exceeded irreversible limits, and the scarcity of resources and their unfair distribution of resources, which have an entry price, will rise day after day and will bring fights at a large scale, but also at the very heart of your cities and countrysides, hatred will grow bigger, but so will the love of money. That is what keeps you confident in your ability to find solutions, and the critical mass is insufficient and a sabotage work, and is cleverly being carried out. Human behaviors formed from past habits and trainings have such an inertia that this perspective leads you to this dead end. You entrusted these problems to represent your life, your conscious of a common well-being, slowly fading away in front of your corporate interests. Your desires to buy brand names to blind you of your problems, of why you are here, why you exist, and why God, why. They are always debating on the form, but rarely on the content. Just at the moment of action, delays will accumulate to the point when you have to submit rather than choose. This is the reason why, more than ever in history, your decisions of today will directly and significantly impact your survival of tomorrow. What event could radically modify this inertia that is typically of any civilization? Where will a collective and a unifying awareness come from? And what will stop this blind rushing ahead? Tribes and populations and human nations have always encountered and interacted with one another. Faced with the threats weighing upon the human family, it is perhaps time that a greater interaction occur. A great roller wave is on the verge of emerging. It mixes very positive but also very negative aspects. The third party. There are two ways to establish a cosmic contact with another civilization via its standing representatives, or directly with individuals without distinction. The first way entails fights of interest. The second way brings awareness. The first way was chosen by a group of races motivated by keeping mankind in slavery, thereby controlling Earth resources, the gene pool, and human emotional energy. The second way was chosen by a group of races allied with the cause of the spirit of service. We have at our end subscribed to this disinterest cause and introduced ourselves a few years ago to representatives of the human power who refused our outstretched hand on the pretext of incompatible interests with their strategic vision. That is why today individuals are to make this choice by themselves without any representative interfering. What we proposed in the past to those whom we believed were in the capacity to contribute to your happiness, we propose it to you now. Most of you ignore the non-human creatures took part in the exercise of those centralizing powers without them being neither suspected nor accessible to your senses. This is so true that they have almost very subtly taken control. They do not necessarily stand on your material plan, and that is precisely what could have made them extremely efficient and frighteningly in the near future. However, this is today why individuals have to make this choice, and that most of you non-human creatures that took part in the exercise of those centralizing powers without them being neither suspected nor accessible to your senses should be violations of the intergalactic space law. How could you under such conditions exercise your free will when it is such manipulated then what are you really free of? Peace and reunification of your peoples would be a first step toward the harmony with civilizations other than yours. That is precisely what those who manipulate you behind the scenes want to avoid at all cost, because by dividing they reign. They also reign over those who are trying to govern you. Their strength comes from their capacity to distillate mistrust and fear into you. This considerably harms your very cosmic nature. This message would be of no interest if these manipulators did not reach its peak, and if they mislead, they will continue their murderous plans, and it will materialize a few years from now. Their deadlines are close, and mankind will undergo unprecedented torments for the next 10 cycles. To defend yourselves against this aggression that bears no face, you need at least to have enough information that leads to the solution. As is also the case with humans, resistance existence, and you must try to exist among those dominant races, but here again, appearance will not be enough to tell the dominator from the ally. At your current state of psychism, it is extremely difficult for you to distinguish between them. In addition to your intuition, training will be necessary when the time has come. Beware of the priceless value of your free will. We are inviting you to an alternative. We can offer you a more holistic vision of the universe and of life. Constructive interactions, the experience of fair and fraternal relationships, liberating technical knowledge, eradication of suffering, controlled exercise of individual powers, the access to new forms of energy, and finally, a better comprehension of consciousness. We cannot help you overcome your individual and collective fears, or bring you laws that would not have chosen. Work on your own selves, individual or collective effort to build the world you desire. The spirit of quest to new skies. Should you decide that such a contact takes place, we would rejoice over the safeguarding of fraternal equilibrium in this region of the universe, fruitful diplomatic exchanges, and the intense joy of knowing that you are united to accomplish what you are capable of. The feeling of joy is strongly sought in the universe, for its energy is divine. The truth of soul can be read by telepathy. You only need to clearly ask yourself this question and give your answer as clearly. On your own or in a group, as you wish. Being in the heart of a city or in the middle of a desert does not impact the efficiency of your answer, yes or no. Immediately after asking the question, just do it as if you were speaking to yourself, but thinking about the message. This is a universal question, and these mere few words, but in their context have a very powerful meaning. You should not let hesitation in the way. This is why you should calmly think about it in all conscience. in order to perfectly associate your answer with the question. It is recommended that you answer right after another reading of this message. Do not rush to answer. Breathe and let all the power of your own free will penetrate you. Be proud of what you are. The problems that you may have weaken you. Forget about them for a few minutes. To be yourselves, feel the force that brings you in control of yourself. A single thought, a single answer can drastically change your near future in one way as in another. Your individual decision of asking in your inner self that we show up on your material plan and in broad daylight is precious and essential to us. Even though you can choose the way that best suits you, rituals are essentially useless. A sincere request made with your heart and your own will always will be perceived by us and those whom it is sent from. In your own private polling booth of your secret will, you will determine the future. This decision should be left by the greatest number among you. Even though it may be a minority, it is recommended to spread this message in all fashions, in as many languages as possible to those around you, whether or not they seem receptive to this new vision of the future. Do it using in a humorous tone or derision, if that can help you. You can even openly or public make fun of it if it makes you feel more comfortable, but do not be indifferent, for at least you have exercised your free will. Forget about the false prophets and the beliefs that have been transmitted to you about this and about us. This request is one of the most intimate that can be asked of you, making a decision by yourself as an individual, as your right, as your free will, as your responsibility. It leads to an absence of freedom if you never hear it and never want to hear it and never believe in it. Then you're believing in nothing and you will go nowhere. But if you really want to cling on to your beliefs, which is something that we understand, then say no. If you do know what you want, what you choose, then say yes. Because it is of mere curiosity. This is not a show. This is real daily life. We are alive and living. Your history has plenty of episodes when it's determined by men and women who were able to influence the thread of events in spite of their smallest numbers. Just like a small number is enough to take temporal power on Earth and influence of the future of the majority, a small number, you can radically change your fate as an answer to the impotence and face of your life with so much inertia and hurdles. By saying no, you can ease your mankind's suffering and your birth to brotherhood by accepting yes into your life, right? Spreading this message and then holding it in your hand and being the light years above people, past people, craftsmen raised in earth and a consequence of our appearances. But what is the consequences of this positive decision, these positive answers? Positivity attracts positivity. Good things happen to good people. Misery loves company. Negative energy attracts negative aliens. For you, the direct effect of the rapid abandoning of many of your religious beliefs these days, a simple, conclusive visual contact with these huge repercussions on the future, and much knowledge would ever be modified forever. But the organizations of our own society have been more deeply upheaved for military concerns and weapons. In all fields of activity, power to these men had become more abundantly important than the individuals of our earth. and we see that ourselves, that we are living concretely, that you would change scale of your values. The most important thing for us is that humankind would form a single family in the front of this unknown, and we need to represent ourselves and ourselves alone. Danger, Will Robinson, right? Would you slowly melt away from your home because you would indirectly force the undesirable ones, those we name the third party, to show up and vanish? Now there's abundantly clear that there's fourth kind aliens, different levels of aliens, the same name and share the same roots of mankind, but have evolved later on. Peaceful and respectful exchanges would be thus possible, and such if our wishes were to continue working with them towards their collective goal. But for now, we sit here hungry and cannot smile. We sit here not knowing, in a fearful state, and we come and say, welcome this. We see these sad men, women, and children suffering to so much and such a degree that in their flesh and in their hearts and in their bear and such, that inner light has been gone. This light can be their future, but our relationships could be progressive if we had chose to establish higher beings and those connections with those angelic aliens. When the angels came from the heavens, not aliens coming from their spaceships. But several stages and several years and decades would occur that demonstrative appearance of their ships and physical appearance besides human beings, and collaboration in our technical and spiritual evolution has a discerning interest. And now Americans are more afraid of the angels, and discovery of the parts of the galaxy has become something they don't want to know. Every time new choices are being offered to us, we should entertain them and decide by yourself to cross your new stages. And if you think that necessary to consider people crazy, it is on your external and internal well-being. But no interference would be decided upon unilaterally. There will be no decision that everybody agrees with, in other words. But we leave, and we need to leave soon as possible, and collectively wish that America and the world would reach peace. But depending upon the spread and speed of the world and the message that several weeks and even several months that will be necessary before our great appearance, if such is the decision made by the majority of those of the fraternity of the galaxy, then their capacity to choose and these messages received is a necessary support. That these and the main difference between your daily prayers to entities of a strictly spiritual nature and your concurrent beliefs in these current decisions of extremely simple nature, that we are technically equipped to materialize. But why such a historical dilemma? That we know that foreigners, that these considerable enemies, as long as they embody the unknown in their hearts and the fear in their minds, that they will not be able to see us in the first stage, and that emotion will of our appearance will generate and strengthen a relationship on a worldwide devastative scale. Widespread panic of the acknowledgement and acceptance of our alien existence and control. But how could you know whether our arrival is in the consequence of your collective choice? For the simple reason that we would let you know. We would have otherwise been already here for a long time at your level of existence. But we are not there yet. It is because you have not made such a decision explicitly and collaboratively and publicly. Some among you might think that we would make you believe in a deliberate choice of yours, but legitimate to our survival and our arrival is that your free will through this would not be true. What interest would we have to openly offer you your own destruction? What you have got has any access to yet but the benefit of the greatest number of yourselves, free will. How could you be certain that this is not yet another subtle maneuver of the third party to better enslave your mind? Because one, always more efficiently fighting something else that is identified than the contrary. 2, isn't the terrorism that corrodes you a blatant example of what's really going on? And 3, whatever you solely judge in your own heart and soul, that is right and that is real. Whatever your choice, it would be respectable and respected. In your absence of your human representatives who could potentially seduce into error, you ignore everything about us, as well as from about those who manipulate you without your consent. Ignorantly living and accepting the demons in your life and blocking the aliens from existence. In your situation, the precautionary principle that exists is not trying to discover us, and it does no longer prevail. But you are ready in the Pandora's box that is the third party that is created around you. The PRISM program. Whatever your decisions may be with your world is something that you will all have to get out of. In the face of such these dilemmas, one ignorance against another, you will need to ask your own institutions and your own intuition and your own self be true. But do you think you can see us with your own eyes, or do you simply believe what you think or say? That is a real question. After thousands of years, one day this choice will give you an inevitable choice between two knowns. What is heaven and what is hell? Translate this and spread this message widely. This action will affect your future in an irreversible and historical way at a scale of millenniums. Otherwise, it will just postpone a new opportunity to choose and have the option of free will. To several years later, at least one generation, if it can survive, not choosing, standing for undergoing other people's choice, not informing others, standing for the running and risking of obtaining a result that is contrary to one's expectations. Remaining indifferent means giving up one's free will. Feeling no way about something means giving up one's free will. It is all about feeling about something. It is all about your future. It is all about your evolution as this race. It is possible that this invitation does not receive your collective assent, and that because of the lack of information it will be disregarded. Nevertheless, no individual desire goes unheeded in the universe. Our imagination is our own limitation, and our imagination is our arrival and survival of the next tomorrow. Thousands of ships, a unique cultural shock of your today modern mankind history is when we will show you and land here. But it will be and too late to regret about not making a choice and spreading this message, because this discovery will be irreversible. We do exist and not need to rush into it, but do think about it and decide. The big medias will not be necessarily interested in spreading this message. It is therefore your task, and anonymous yet extraordinary thinking and loving being, to transmit it. You are still the architects of your own future.